It's very accurate. Interesting. I'd love to hear a simple breakdown of the following. HX3 is optimal when you need ... Okay. I mean, use cases are a dime a dozen, right? And very much so anecdotal. But I like HX3 as a middle ground between HX2 and full, although full is basically the optimal, but it's, there's like 20 analogies that just went through my brain. Essentially, though, like if you would like to have better performance from your HX signals, but you can't afford to go full NDI on the network, HX3 is a great variable option. Really is. And I have seen that as, hey, my network can't do 140 megs at 1080p 60. I need something less than that, but I don't want to compromise too much. Okay, HX3 is a great option there. Full NDI is basically the network is not going to be the problem for you. You have the bandwidth is handled, you've got it configured correctly, and you're wanting optimal performance. It's the sports car, right? And so this engine is tuned. You're giving it the correct fuel. You're providing it the correct structure to run correctly, and you want optimal performance as close as you can get it to SDI, BNC capabilities. That's the full NDI. So we want the flexibility of NDI, because here's the deal, right? If you think of it like there are so many multifaceted ways of doing this, but video traveling over baseband is basically zero latency other than what the cameras introduce. And so you can go from baseband you can go from source to destination with the lowest known latency possible with SDI, BNC. Okay, that's the industry standard. So if we're doing IMAG, you're immediately talking about SDI. But if you want the flexibility of NDI, full NDI, but still the high performance standards of SDI, full NDI is the question, because it has the lowest amount of latency, but you get the massive flexibility of NDI and how you can send that around your network. You can send it to multiple destinations. You can send it to multiple viewing options, and it's all inexpensive Cat 6, Cat 5e cabling. So the price all of a sudden becomes a lot less. You get a little bit more latency than SDI, but you have all this more flexibility. Now we can ship it around the world. I can send it to Melbourne for, a few hundred milliseconds. So it becomes very flexible in that, and we don't need to encode it somewhere else. It's already NDI. HX is when it's like, the infrastructure is going to be a problem for us. We don't have the money for SDI. We definitely don't have the money to handle full NDI. We really need to tighten down our budget. Or I can't afford to have 140 megs per stream. And so HX3 is now the variable, and we can kind of scale it up and see, okay, we're going to use 4 sources today. We can run this at medium. That's going to be 25 megs per second or whatever it is. And that's going to get us by. Now, we're going to compromise a little bit on the image, and it's going to compromise a bit on the latency, but we get the flexibility of NDI, and we don't have to worry too much about the backbone of the network handling this, because the packets are not 140 megs. They're 25 megs each. And then HX2 is, seriously, Jeremy, you're not kidding. A week ago, I said I'm going to get a haircut, and I never did. The last piece, though, is HX2 is like, I got to be concerned. I don't care too much about latency. I don't care too much about quality. I got to be really concerned about the backbone. And HX2 is the perfect answer for that. Is we're going to have the flexibility of NDI. The other things don't matter so much, but I really don't have the capability to up the ante on the infrastructure, and I need to be super cheap. Okay? I need the cheapest possible way to do video over IP with NDI standard, okay? Because the other option is 2110. That's the other option out there right now. Yes, there are other encoders that do point-to-point, that do H.264, but it is not an NDI standard, and it's certainly not broadcast quality. So HX2 is a great solution, but you compromise on everything else but the backbone so that you can have the flexibility of NDI. I hope, Randy, that is somewhat of a helpful answer, okay? I look at it in those 3 realms. SDI is always going to be a standard that NDI is going to aspire to, work towards, but that is a, 30, 40-year standard that is hardlined and is super expensive. Really expensive to install copper SDI all the way through your installation. Astronomically expensive. High performance. Great results. Low latency. Absolutely. Crazy expensive. NDI compared to 2110 or compared to SDI is extremely inexpensive on the networking side. But if it's, so full NDI is the great step down, but gives you the immense flexibility of NDI. And if you need to step down again, HX3 is now the intermediate option between full and HX2. And then if you got to step down again, I mean, you're really going for the flexibility of video over IP, but your budget for your network is really low. Your latency expectations is really low. Your expectation is low, but the expectation of the outcome will be high latency, and you can't compromise on how much bandwidth you can use. Okay, so I look at it in those kind of stages. Okay, and there are 4 categories, and where your odometer lands, is going to dictate where this all goes.